A day in the life of Rome's forgotten middle class. When we think of ancient Rome, we usually picture powerful senators, famous generals, or emperors, or on the other side, the poor masses struggling to survive. But between these extremes existed a small, fascinating group, Rome's middle class. Ancient Rome didn't have a middle class like we understand today. Senators needed fortunes of at least 1 million sestertii, equestrians 500,000, and decurions often 100,000 or more. They weren't an organized social class, and they had no collective voice or identity. To the aristocrats, they were simply new money, people without old family names or the refined culture that supposedly defined real respectability. This elite made up only about 1% of the population, yet they controlled roughly 1/4 of the empire's wealth. But there was a segment of people who lived between wealth and poverty, moderately prosperous, ambitious, and often surprisingly influential. Freedmen often remained close to their former masters, forming business partnerships that gave them advantages over freeborn rivals. Legionaries who completed 20 years of service received substantial bonuses, sometimes a decade's worth of pay or a piece of land. Officers earned far more and often left the army as wealthy men. Many veterans became merchants, craftsmen, or large-scale farmers. Some rose into local government, earning honorary statues, or even passing into the aristocracy within a generation or two. Roman literature loves to poke fun at wealthy freedmen, like the fictional Trimalchio from Petronius the Satirican, who boasts of his fortune and extravagant lifestyle. But real-life epitaphs confirm such stories. Former goatskin merchants leaving behind marble houses and charity funds, freedmen doctors listing their civic honors, or bakers carving loaves of bread onto their tombs as a symbol of their success. Skilled craftsmen, especially goldsmiths, jewelers, or metalworkers, could make excellent money. So could merchants trading in luxury goods like silk, spices, or the famous fish sauce called garum. They worked as craftsmen, farmers, shopkeepers, or tradesmen, living in decent houses and enjoying some comforts, but never joining the political elite. They were the ones who kept the cities alive, supplied the markets, built the businesses, and held up the society that the elite so often took for granted. Many families eventually slipped back into the anonymous crowds of Rome's poor. In Pompeii, the merchant Ambricius Scaurus proudly decorated his home with mosaics advertising his top-grade mackerel sauce, proof that business success could also bring social pride. At the top stood the elite, senators, equestrians, and local city councilors known as decurions. Every week, we bring you fascinating, vivid tales from the past, from forgotten empires to everyday life in the ancient world. Don't miss out. Join our community and keep the past alive. Below them, perhaps 10% of Romans were moderately prosperous. The ideal sources of income were from land and agriculture. Modest private houses and comfortable apartment blocks have been called middle class, but the labels are blurred. Items like fine pottery imitating gold and silver hint at moderate prosperity, but no artifact can automatically be labeled middle class. What we can say is that many Romans outside the elite had disposable income and could afford small luxuries. Trades, crafts, retail, and even medicine or teaching were seen as lower status work, acceptable for freedmen, but not for the aristocracy. For a Roman gentleman, reputation was tied not just to wealth, but to noble ancestry, fine education, and an appropriate lifestyle. But even if elite writers looked down on them, many Romans found paths to prosperity. Archaeologists often struggle to distinguish middle-class households in places like Pompeii. One key face of upward mobility in Rome was the freedman, a former slave who had bought or been granted freedom. Away from the big cities, many middle-class lives were built by veterans. Yet for most, middle-class life meant security more than social climbing. The middle class of ancient Rome may have been small and often overlooked, but it played an essential role in the empire's economy and daily life. If you enjoy stories like this and want to keep exploring the hidden corners of ancient history, make sure to subscribe to the Roman Scroll.